Okay. This system is pretty simple. Look up the chart for the weapon you're using and cross-reference it with the armor your enemy is wearing. Find the square root of your character's THAC0 and multiply it by your weapon's primary weapon damage, PWD. Add in the armor defense factor you found on the armor table. Don't forget your weapon speed and reach adjustments. Add them together, then divide that by your enemy's positional stance adjustment, PSA, which you'll need to look up on the PSA table. Now, roll your PWD die, that's your variable weapon damage, and add in any CABs. CABs means character attribute bonuses. Find the total and divide by the defender's PDF, passive defense factor, which is always between 0.124 and 0.753. The result is your CROC, C-R-O-C, chance roll of critical, which you add to your weapon and race table for your damage roll. Okay, now we have to do some differential equations, but they're really not that tough. In this video, I just want to go over what crunch means, at least what it means for me. Other people may mean something different by it, but I had someone question exactly what crunch means, because it's a term that I tend to say a lot. So I thought what I would do is just go through a progression of games sort of ranked in order of what I would call crunchiness. And I'm sure some people will disagree with me, no problem. Just full disclosure, not everything I find crunchy will necessarily be crunchy. I'm unbelievably dyslexic. So some things are more sort of problematic for me than they may be for you, and other people may have other things, but this is just the way that I consider crunch. Crunch to me is sort of the number of tables you have to look up and the different kinds of maths that might be involved in calculations and that kind of thing. So that's what I mean by crunch, but I'll just go through a quick progression here, sort of from some of the simpler games I have to the most complex game I have, the one that I think is just completely off the hook. So here we go. So I'm just going to start here with Maze Rats. Actually, I'm going to start with Troika. I'm going to say Troika is one of the least crunchy games I can think of. It's one of the simplest games. Unless you get a one-page RPG game, which there's lots of those available, but sort of in book format, this one is so simple. There are some tables, but there is nothing even slightly challenging in this game in terms of crunch, like having to remember rules, looking things up. This one's pretty much as easy as it gets. Another one I would say that is extremely easy is Maze Rats. The characters are even random. The monsters are random. There isn't much to remember. It's unbelievably easy. Fantastic game. Highly recommended. I would say moving up from Maze Rats, I would say White Box is a little bit crunchier than Maze Rats because you do have some tables you have to look up and you have to keep track of some bonuses. I can't speak today. Some bonuses and whatnot. But I think overall, this is an incredibly low crunch game. I really like the game for that. It is based on Swords and Wizardry, which this is the core rule, not the main rules. And this, I would say, is very low crunch. But it is a little crunchier than Troika and is a little crunchier than Maze Rat. Certainly a lot bigger. So if large rules qualify as crunch, then this would be a little bit crunchier. Another very low crunch game, I would say, is Fate. Now, Fate is a little bit difficult to wrap your head around, maybe. I found that to be the case with some of my players. But other than that, I would say this is an extremely low crunch game. Moving up a little bit, this one's getting a little bit crunchier, although it's very simple too. This is White Hack. It's a little bit tougher just because there are no illustrations that break it up or anything, and it's just, in my opinion, it's a little tougher. If you disagree with me, please leave a comment down below. Let me know how you think these rank. Let me just put these aside. One that I would consider a bit crunchier than that would be Savage Worlds. This one requires playing cards, that sort of thing. And dice, great game. By the way, just because I say a game is crunchy does not mean I don't like it. Some of my favorite games are some of the crunchiest games in existence. Just because a game is low crunch doesn't mean I don't like it either. I like both. I like high crunch and low crunch. Some crunchy games go off the charts and I just can't deal with them. But we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so I would say that sort of on this scale, 5e is extremely low crunch compared to some of the other games. I think certainly of the D&D, if you want to call genre, I don't know how I would call it, but I think of the D&D, I would say it falls in. It's more complicated than Savage Worlds, but not really much. I mean, once you understand how it works and everything, it's pretty simple. I think 4e was a little more complicated than it. And certainly a little crunchier, that had tiers in it, for example, and then it has this kind of stuff in it, which if you look at this is starting to get what I would call crunch. You've got DCs happening, you've got, basically this is a level 13 obstacle, it says here. I don't know, where am I here? What am I looking at? Using of traps and hazards. So this is describing a trap. So you've got all this information on a trap. That's starting to get pretty high crunch, if you ask me. I mean, you need all that just for a trap? Like, seriously? Okay. So that would be D&D 4e. Now, I also think 3.5 is a fairly crunchy game as well. Not as... I think it's probably less than 4e. I'm not sure, actually. It's got a lot of rules and a lot of things you have to keep track of. I would count that as crunch, too. A lot of, different factors you have to... Oh, man, I miss the smell of this book. This was a good-smelling book. I'm a bibliophile a bit, so I like books. But this one, I would say, is fairly high crunch. Now, if I'm going to get into even higher crunch, I think a thing like Hero System comes to mind. Sorry, I had to put those away. A game like Hero System comes to mind. The character creation in this book, and now they have a fantasy version of this too, which even adds more complexity to it. But this is a pretty complicated game, especially making a character. Now, lots of people love this game, play this game. I think it's a great game. Like I say, crunch doesn't indicate to me whether it's a good or bad game, but it does... It is the level of complexity involved in it and just the sheer amount of rules. This, I would say, is a pretty complicated game. For me, anyway. And, yeah, so Hero System, I think, would be in there. Now, the next one that I think is even more complicated than Hero... So this is where I'm going to get in trouble. Somebody's going to say, it is not. Fine, leave a comment. Yeah, I welcome people disagreeing with me. Not a problem. Would be the Dungeon Master, or first edition D&D. Because this is sort of like, not the king of crunch, but I think this is what most people think of as a really crunchy game. The rules are sort of... very hard to find, all over the place, lots of tables and charts. But the thing why it doesn't qualify as very crunchy in my mind is that there's not a lot of math. You do have a little addition, you do have a little subtraction. It does use negative numbers, which I know puts it into the sort of the moderately high crunch. As soon as you start asking people to look at negative numbers. Has Thaco, that seems to put it in moderately high crunch. Although they only use Thaco in a couple places. It's not like second edition D&D where it was quite prominent. Oh, I forgot my second edition. All right. Second edition would have been before Hero. Would have been... Where would I put it? Second edition. Probably right around the 5e. Second edition was pretty easy. Second edition was pretty low crunch. So something I consider even more complicated than this, believe it or not, would be Hackmaster. Oh, I can hear the outrage now. But Hackmaster, even though there's only 2 books with, but it has a whole stack. Well, I don't know, there's a pile of books for these. This is the Dungeon Master's Guide, but this is high. This is high crunch in my opinion. Like, this is the 2-hit table or hit location. What else do we have? We have spell mishap table. As you can see, very tiny writing, so tons of rules. It's laid out better than Dungeon Master's Guide. It's easier to find stuff. That's for. Oh yeah. This kills me. This is for keeping track of alignment to make sure that the players are playing in their alignment. I'm sorry, it's just crazy. I've played this game. I did not use this because, and yeah, please leave a comment. If you have used this, I really want to hear from you because my hat's off to you. You have way more brain cells than me. So what else have we got in here? Just like that. As you can see, it's just complicated. I mean, there's just no other way around it. And I would call that crunchiness, These are the monsters. Now, there's separate monster manuals for this too, but herbs and spices and medical vegetables with a D 10,000 table. Yeah, so Hackmaster, I would say, is pretty high crunch. It's higher than the original D&D, in my opinion. So the next one, I've talked about this before, is Rollmaster. I'd say Rollmaster's more complicated than Hackmaster, and I've played the hell out of Rollmaster. I've already done a whole video on Rollmaster, but it's, again, talking about crunch. You have to look up a table for your weapon. You roll to hit on it, depending on what the opponent's armor is, and then you've got critical hit tables that you have to look up what happened, and then you can read off what the critical is. And then all the various criticals can be healed or not healed, depending on how tough your character is. So this is, in my opinion, much higher crunch. This would be a high-ish crunch game, in my opinion. Only high-ish. So another game that I would say is even more complicated than Rollmaster, and again, this might be where my dyslexia kicks in. I have no idea. I tried to even roll a character up on this, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. It was impossible for me. Aside from being unbelievably hard to read, I think this, if I remember correctly, was back when people were trying to figure out how to keep other people from photocopying things. So I think this was an attempt to get rid of this. Now, this was actually made by the man Gary Gygax himself, but there's so many acronyms and things in here. Like, as you can see here, or maybe you can't, it's kind of hard to see. Mental trait, M. Reason, MR. Capacity, MR cap. Power, MR pow. Speed, MR speed. Mnemonic, MM. Capacity, MR cap. Power, MRP, or MR pow. Speed, MR SPD. Okay, I can't remember any of that, and that just might be dyslexia. I have no idea, but it just made this game beyond my reach. I actually met people that played this game. A group down in Seattle, some friends of mine. Wow. I couldn't believe they played it. My friend had all the books and everything. He knew all about how to do it. See, here's RS, KS. Yeah. Anyway, this is a game. It's basically... I just say it's inaccessible to me. But lots of tables. Mostly it's all just the initials for everything. I had just no hope. I tried as I gave up on this one. So this one, in my mind anyway, is really high crunch. Worse than Rollmaster. I could roll up Rollmaster characters all day. This, I couldn't even get started. So now I just want one thing here. The most high crunch game, I'm getting into the crunchiest games that I have. Now I imagine there are crunchier games. So this is not a role-playing game. This is just a combat game. By the way, it's my favorite book. I mean, ever. I love the way this book feels. It's so neat. Now, Starfleet Battles was put out by Task Force Games. I've known people that had bookshelves of these games. There were so many books, and they all had this punched, you know, kind of like the basic D&D was back in the day. It has these 3-hole punch, so you see these rules in binders. I'm sure some of you watching this play this game. You're amazing. I don't know why you're not out there discovering hyperdrives and stuff, because your brains are off the charts. But anyway, this game is, in my opinion, one of the highest crunch games in existence. It's not the highest. I have one that's higher, but this one is crazy. And the thing is that every ship has its own rules that you have to remember. And then the rules will either set up GS.28, then GS.29, and then you go down GS 32.1. Okay, so 32.1 means that it's a rule underneath 32.1, and the way it's laid out, you've got charts, you've got tables, but this one isn't the worst. Now, and you've got tons. Like I say, you can fill a bookshelf with these rules. Literally. No exaggeration. There's a ton of rules for this game. This is just the basic rule book that I have here. Remember, this is the basic. So this is, in my opinion, this is really high crunch. And I've played this game before. Like I said in the previous video, other people much smarter than me had to keep track of the rules, because I'm not doing it. I can fly in a spaceship, and I can do the tactics and stuff like that, no problem, but do not expect me to remember this. It's not happening. Yeah, it's just not happening. This is just for drones. Everything's got its own rules, every ship. It's an amazing game. I'm not dissing the game at all in the least. I mean, if you can play this is a fantastic game. I loved it. But, that being said, you know, there's limits. Okay, so my most complicated game is also one of my simplest games, and that's Traveller. Traveller is, I would say it's low. It's, I don't know, it's over average for crunch. It's fairly crunchy, but it's fairly simple. I mean, you've got the creating a character. Once you get used to it, is actually pretty simple. This one is unfortunately water damaged. I had an accident in my kitchen, and all the water spilled all over my books in the basement. So all my Traveller books got wrecked. But anyway, I still have them. I would say, I wasn't planning on showing this one, but I would say it's less complicated than first edition D&D. It's less complicated than even 3.5, in my opinion, because it's smaller. But it can get complicated. Once you start adding high guard and stuff rules to it, then you're starting to get pretty high crunch. So this game's... But, that being said, the granddaddy of crunch, in my opinion, is this one. My daughter is very, very smart lady, and she majored in science and business. And when I got this rule book, 'cause I dunked on Kickstarter, and when I got this book and I showed it to her, her eyes just lit up because she loves this kind of stuff. And I know there are people that do. And I love Traveller. Traveller is definitely one of my favorite all-times book, and or favorite games of all time. But this, when I got this book, I couldn't believe it, because not only is it huge, like it is monstrous, but it is complicated. Like, wow. And it only uses 6-sided dice, but you have negative numbers, you have positive numbers, you have a whole pile of different terms. You've got math equations everywhere. And not just silly ones like with this die plus this die, but you've got like some serious math equations going on in here. And tables. Like, this is for evaluating a ship. So just in case you want to know what the demand is, or you want to know what the comfort's like, or you want to know what the ergonomics are like. So in my introduction cartoon, I made a joke about differential equations. This qualifies in my mind. I don't know anything about differential equations. But this is just crazy. I love it. Don't get me wrong, I'm not dissing the game. I think it's absolutely unbelievable armor maker. This game is, but this is the ultimate, in my opinion. This is ultra crunch. This isn't high crunch. This is ultra crunch. Maybe there's more. Maybe there are crunchier games. Please, if you know of any, leave them down in the comment. Look at this. This is for damage. Oh yeah, I love it. So, what have we got here? You know, calculating gravity wells and things, and figuring out your orbits. You know, because you want that to be as accurate as possible, right? Setting up your planets and figuring out. Anyway, I'll stop laughing. I can't help but laugh when I see this game. I think it's awesome. It's really neat. My daughter, she just thinks this is the greatest. But, you know, she's a scientist. Which I think that helps. I think being a scientist to play this would help. I really do. And I'm not dissing the game at all. Again, favorite game. I love this game. I'm going to stick to the simpler versions of it, probably. Actually, I tried to buy the 3-volume set because I have the PDF of it, and it looks a lot easier. But for some reason, I couldn't get contact with Mark Miller and get a copy of it. So I'll try again. He said he was going to send me something saying I could get it, because I'm in Canada, so it's actually hard for me to get the 3-volume, but I'll email him again and see if he probably just forgot. But anyway, I would say that's the crunchiest that I have anyway. Anyway, that's it for the video. Thanks for watching. I hope I hope there's a crunchier game out there, because I kind of love looking at crunchy games. Please let me know if you know of something that's crunchier than that. You know, I would love to take a look at it. But that's it. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe and leave a comment down below. Did I get the right order? Do you know of some games that should squeeze in between some of these? Because I didn't go through all the books at all my rules at all. Just grabbed a few, you know. So if you think I got something wrong, or maybe I should have included a different rule set, please leave a comment. And thank you very much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.